It's me. It's Ando. Today I'm gonna talk about books. I have been reading. I can read. I can use my eyes to read letters, and they make stories. And some of those stories really good. So these are 5 books I liked that I read in 2023. Not necessarily 2023 release books. I read 27 maybe books this year. If I hope I counted all of them. It might be more than 27. That'd be really cool. So that averages about 1 a week, but completely thrown off by me reading like Words of Radiance, which took 2 months, and that was an experience. We'll start off with Words of Radiance, though. I technically finished it a few hours after midnight 2024, so I'm still counting it. This takes forever to read. Words of Radiance is the second book in Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive series. It's like 1,200 pages. I read the ebook or else my arm would fall off. But since I'm such a petty little collector man, I demand that I have to have like physical versions of every book I read digitally anyway. How do I even explain Stormlight to someone who doesn't know? I don't know. This is going to be a 10-book series. There's only 4 out right now. And unlike Game of Thrones, I actually trust the author to finish it, which is why I'm actually reading it. It's like an epic war fantasy that comes across more like anime than anything not anime, or at least like if not anime, then very like MCU epic hype. The one-liners in this book live in my head rent-free. I won't say them because they're so hype, but if you've read it, you'll know there's a few. I love this book in a lot of ways, and it was very different to what I was expecting. The Way of Kings, the first book in the Stormlight Archive, is very slow. And coming out of that book and into this one, it starts off very fast-paced, and I'm like, oh, here we go, let's go, go, go. And then it's sort of just the Way of Kings again. We're in the same place, and nothing really changes, except, well, everything changes. The characters get so much development, and especially Shallan's backstory in this book is just so much more interesting than Kaladin's backstory in The Way of Kings. I was dreading reading those chapters. The first time around, Shallan's were much more interesting. The Way of Kings spends so much time doing world-building stuff that Words of Radiance really has more time to dig into the characters and give you a much better look into who these people are. And especially a look into cultures that we haven't really explored yet, specifically with the Pashendi, which is just really interesting, and I don't know where that's going. I feel like if no one's read this book, I'm just throwing out buzzwords. If you're looking for like a big fantasy epic, I 100% recommend the Stormlight Archive, but there may be better places to start for Brandon Sanderson that I'll talk about later in the video. Going from the biggest book I read to the smallest, teeniest, tiniest book that I probably read this year, which is Untethered Sky by Fonda Lee. She's probably best well known for the Green Bone Saga, which is Jade City, Jade Legacy, Jade War, which might... I don't know if I got those in the right order. I'm currently reading Jade City. That is the one I'm reading right now. It's not as good as Untethered Sky. Untethered Sky is about, what's that thing called when you have a bird and you send it hunting for things? Hunting with bird. Falconry. So basically it's falconry, but with massive birds. And it's about this girl, I forget her name, who bonds with this bird called Zara. They train together, they go out on hunts. And it's just a very cool, fantastical setting. And the book is very thin. It's like very efficient and economical with how it tells its story. And it doesn't get drowned out in a bunch of stuff unrelated to the cool falconry part of the book. The things that happen really aren't that amazing. just the way Fonda Lee writes how this bird comes down and kills stuff. It's just so cool. So cool. And you really start feeling for the main character and her bird and all the other characters who are closely involved with them. I don't think it's super groundbreaking, but it was a really fun read. It's really short, and I would super recommend it. Next up is Yellowface. I've seen a new cover of this going around with the definition of Yellowface, like, written on the bottom of the cover, which is just really, really funny. This book is about two authors. One is very successful and one isn't. The successful author dies in an accident, and so the other girl steals the dead author's manuscript and claims it as her own. And then it's just really a massive train wreck just of her living through passing this book off as her own, and how she deals with that, and how it's really influenced by social media and the publishing industry and sort of the effects that that has. Oh, this is by Rebecca F. Kuang, by the way. I forgot to mention that. She's written a bunch of fantasy stuff like The Poppy War and Babel. This is, like, obviously not fantasy, but it is fiction. I really like the way this is written, but I also think it might just be generic angry white girl writing. I don't know why that appeals to me so much, but I really enjoy it. This whole book just feels like a car crash in slow motion where you can't look away. The main character is such a terrible person, and I love her because of that. Not as a person, but as a character. It's just so fun to read. If you get kicks out of, like, watching cringe humor content, I think you'll like this. It's a good one. And probably because I'm also, like, chronically online, a lot of, like, the social media stuff in this book feels like it could be real. I don't think I expected to like it as much as I did, but totally did. So, Yellowface. Number 4 isn't really a book, but it sort of is a book. I'm going to count it, which is Watchmen. This is the original graphic novel by Alan Moore. You know, aside from seeing, like, Rorschach stuff around, I didn't really know what Watchmen was about. Long story short, I was playing Marvel Snap, and I'm like, oh, I want to get into comics, and then ended up buying, like, only DC comics. So I guess they failed the marketing ploy on that one. Watchmen is this really interesting study of these superhero people who are all sort of terrible people. Like, I don't know if I'd even call Watchmen a superhero story, just because no superheroing goes on, or very, very little. It's got this really, I think, interesting mystery at the core of it. I didn't predict what the hell was going to happen, but maybe I'm just dumb. I just found it really interesting, like, how much it wasn't superheroes and how much it was just characters like, this is my view of the world, I'm going to do whatever I want and you're going to like it. Probably seen this blue dude around Dr. Manhattan in, like, memes and stuff. I didn't know he was from Watchmen, and then I started seeing him in memes everywhere, and I'm like, oh, this is where the meme's from. I thought the comic was much better than the movie, the Zack Snyder movie, especially just because it has a lot more time for characters to, like, monologue. And after each chapter, there's, like, I don't know how well you can see it. There's a few pages of typically, like, an essay or an excerpt from something that's in universe, which is, you know, kind of weird and unrelated to what's actually happening in the story in a lot of ways. But it really adds a lot to the world and some of the characters that you might not spend too much time with. I think the ending is really cool. I just like the, I don't know if I'd say philosophy of things, but just the sort of the morality behind a lot of what's going on. I think there's going to be a banger forever. I feel like it's probably already proven that Watchmen is forever. This is really, really good. Last, but certainly not least, this is probably my favorite book of the year, which, again, coming back to Brandon Sanderson, This is Hero of Ages, the third book in the Mistborn trilogy, but I did read the whole trilogy this year. I'm gonna grab my special version and hope I don't get it too sweaty. Mistborn. Mistborn is special. Mistborn is like a fantasy action heist book that follows this young girl named Vin. She is a Mistborn, which means she has like these 8 special superpowers that basically no one else has. And her job is to overthrow this like dark evil ruler who's been ruling for 1,000 years. Hero of Ages being the third and final book for this era of Mistborn, really, really surprised me with the level of connection between the first book in the trilogy and the last. To give context, the way Sanderson wrote these books is he wrote all 3 of them before he published the first one, which allowed him to put like insane amounts of foreshadowing and connection between the 3 books. So they sort of read just like one big long book rather than 3 separate books. And Hero of Ages just goes in a direction and has so much epic scale that I really wasn't expecting from it. The thing that maybe surprised me the most about Mistborn and Sanderson's writing in general is how much of it focuses on religion, but in a really great, tasteful way where it's sort of exploring, why people believe in things that they believe in. There's too much for me to unpack about Mistborn. All the twists, there's so many twists in this. I think if you haven't really read since high school, like me, the Mistborn series is just a fantastic hook to get back into reading. I think the first book maybe plays a bit too safe, but going on to Well of Ascension, and especially Hero of Ages, this story is something that you would not expect from the first book. Like I said with Sanderson's writing and the words of Radiance bits, his writing is very like anime, and it's like a JRPG story. That's my pitch. People complain about his prose being like, oh, it's boring, it sucks. I think it's really accessible. I can blaze through Sanderson writing so much faster than I can with other authors, but that might be because I read through like 15 of his books in the last year. When I finished Hero of Ages, I thought maybe this is my favorite book ever. It is that good. Man can write a damn good book. I took a day off work so I could read the end of Hero of Ages, and I was shook. I was like in tears. That final reveal, oh my god, no way! Like, the Sanderson's writing makes me feel things. Sanderson is hype. So that's my 5 favorite books of the year. Feel free to leave a comment about other books I should read that I definitely won't, but I will smile at you in the comments and say, oh yeah, I'll add it to my list. I won't do that. If you guys read, I don't know, maybe you guys just look at anime goals all the time and that's why you subscribed. If you read, let me know in the comments what you like reading. I'm interested to know, legitimately. I don't know how to finish this video, so I'm just gonna cut to black. Bye.